a number of the starters won't play. There will be some starters that do play, and then it'll go from there, really. So.
How about, is Josh going to play?
No, he will not play.
Hey, Sean, with the 3 games now and the fact that I think it's 2 weeks between your last preseason and the opener or something like that, it's longer than normal. Is this going to be a situation where, unlike past years, you might play with starters a little bit more in that 3rd game than you would have if it was a 4th regular year?
Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from, Sal. It's kind of hard to project right now. I mean, we got a plan, but we really want to see, as you mentioned, because of the uniqueness of this preseason, want to just take it 1 week at a time and see where we're at as a team and what we need. And for this one, we felt like it was important to, take a good look at these young players in particular to give them their due. And this is the first time that it's, with the cuts each week, basically after each game, we want to make sure we've got a good handle on who we have and what we need to do going forward.
Sean, for someone like Jake, he hasn't played in an actual game in quite some time. How valuable in the evaluation process is it for you, for the first time really, to see him in live action?
Yeah, it's huge. You try and simulate it out here the best you can, but there's still something to be said for playing a game in front of a crowd and in real game situations. So, it has been a while for Jake and probably a few others as well. So it'll be a good opportunity for them.
Coach, where is Dion in his journey back to the field here? Right?
Yeah, he's making progress. It's good to see him back in person and know that he's doing better. So it's a great reminder for all of us, honestly. So we're just going to continue to work him back and ramp him up each day.
So with him being gone the whole time here, you've had such a great chance to get some people in there. But specifically, can you comment on Spencer and just how he maybe has taken advantage of the opportunity to get so many reps and how he's doing so far?
Yeah, well, that's what happens when, unfortunately, guys are out. It's an opportunity for someone else to step in and show us what they can do. And I think Spencer's off to a great start. He's held his own in there against some good competition, and now with Jerry back, it's given him another look at what a veteran defensive end looks like from that side in particular, and it's been good for him to get the reps he's gotten.
Sean, how is your life so much easier now with preseason games this season versus last season when you had to simulate a lot of that leading up to roster cuts?
Yeah, Maddie, it's different. I think we learned something. I'm sure if you polled every head coach around the league, we all learned something last year, having to really kind of shape our own game situations and whatnot. And I think there's some good to that. And so now instead of 4, now we're down to 3, and so we'll learn from this go around as well, and we'll see what next year brings. But it's beneficial to be able to play against another team, against looks that maybe you haven't seen before, and so we're looking forward to our opportunity with Detroit here.
Sean, do you use these games at all to get other coaches play calling reps?
We don't mess around with that as much in the preseason. I mean, we'll do it. We've done it before. I know Kevin's doing it. It sounds like in Cleveland. We've done that before. I've been a part of that as well on the other end. So, we're going to do it at the end of the day. What gets us ready to go, and certainly understand what his approach is there. So we'll see. We'll play it again 1 quarter at a time and 1 game at a time. And if I feel like we're in a spot where we could do that, we'll always look to do that.
We're kind of like fascinated by F.A. Obata and just how cool he was and how the maturity and just how engaging he was here, even though he said he doesn't like the marketing side of things. What do you make of his journey and just what he proved, maybe what you saw from him on tape when he got the opportunity to play, what he can add to this team?
Well, we're fortunate, John, to have Eric Washington on our staff and a couple other Carolina Panthers or ex-Carolina Panthers that played alongside of F.A. and know his history, know his story. He's got a great story, and my hat goes off to him. To be able to play at this level is hard to do for anyone, let alone a person with his background. So. I saw what he said about he just wants to be known for his play and how he can help this team, and I think that's a great approach. I think it's a great mindset, and that's what he's here to do. And so I think he's off to a great start. He's shown that he can play outside and inside, and so I think his best football is ahead of him.
Sean, what have you seen from Tommy Doyle so far this training camp?
Yeah, it was good to get him back on the field yesterday. I think he had missed, the day before. again, like Spencer, off to a great start. Those two linemen, it's great when you have linemen come in that are smart, tough. They don't say a lot, which is to me a good thing. They're trying to earn their due around here, and I think for all of us, that's the right approach, in particular for linemen.
Hey, Sean, the other day, Dawson Knox was talking about how he spent some time at that tight end seminar, whatever it's called, and he said he took away a lot of really neat things from that, especially in how he runs routes and reads coverage and stuff like that. 2 weeks in, what are you seeing from him? Do you see we talked about earlier, third year is a big year. Have you seen something in the last 2 weeks that helps you think that he's making some progress there?
Well, I think you're seeing the production, right? I think he was off to a really good start. Had a little bit of a hiccup one day, and then came back the next day and got right back on it in terms of picking up where he left off 2 days prior. And I think that says a lot about his mental strength and his mental toughness. And I think he's having a really good camp. So I've been proud of what he's done to this point, and maybe some of it does come from being around at that tight end camp, if you will, and so confidence comes from that as well. Just knowing you rub some elbows with some guys who have been there and done it at a high level.
Would you say your team in particular, because you've got so many weapons at the wideout position, is maybe a little bit less reliant on, you don't need a Rob Gronkowski in this offense. It'd be nice to have him, but you don't need him in this offense. Are you a little bit less reliant on your tight end, do you think, in the passing game than, say, other teams might be?
Well, I mean, Josh is always going to throw to who's open. He does a great job with that, and it's important that we stay balanced with that and stay two-dimensional, if you will, that as the passing game goes, that it's not just one position, but we can spread the ball around to the tight ends, to the backs. The better you do that, the harder you are to defend.
How excited are you to get guys that practiced a lot last year that maybe didn't get a chance in the preseason? Remember week 17, you got guys in that you said earned it and deserved time. How excited are you for this preseason game to get those guys back in game action?
Yeah, same. I mean, these players, they work hard, right? They bust their tail in the offseason to give themselves the best chance to make a team. And in some cases, they're trying to audition for other teams as well. So that's just stating the obvious, right? So good for them. They'll get a chance come Friday night to show us what they've got and put some good tape out there.
Sean, how do you balance Leslie, some other guys on the defensive line last year mentioned maybe they were hurt more than anyone developing chemistry with not having the preseason and a different training camp. How do you balance finding and working the right combinations while also giving some other guys at the bottom half of the roster in these preseason games the reps that you need to evaluate?
Yeah, I think that's always a challenge as a coach is, how do you, make sure that you've got the right number of players or the right players inside that number come cut down time and yet also getting your guys who are going to play ready to go in the opener for the opener. So it's a balance, I can tell you that. We go back and forth, and especially because the dynamics have changed this year with the 3 preseason games and when each cut is as we go. The look of practice sometimes changes. You'll see some of that today at practice, and then usually you've got a pretty good plan, and we do. But I think more than ever now we have to stay just 1 week or 1 day at a time in terms of who plays the next game and how much. So we'll see.
With a lot of players coming back, returning, is it maybe more beneficial to a team like the Bills when it comes to losing a preseason game where you can maybe focus more on the second and third players rather than worry about what the starters are as far as at least the first preseason game?
Yeah. So are you asking, John, about whether or not we really want to win the game versus development? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I guess evaluation, especially when it comes to cut down.
Yeah,
I'm sure you want to win the game. It's
right.
just, but you're able to, who Josh is, who many of your starters are.
Right.
But you don't know some of your second and third players. So can you dig? Is there a benefit to this first preseason game where you can dig down and evaluate those guys further?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you said it. We feel like we know, a portion of our roster, and it would. From the work that we've put in the last 2 days, in particular some of those starters, we're getting them in shape and they're getting experience and the experience they need really working together with, in this case, Josh, you mentioned, with his receivers. feel like they're in a pretty good place. They're not ready yet. We're not ready yet. But in order for us to put this thing together the right way, we've got to make sure that we know the back half of our roster, and those opportunities are starting to narrow. And so we've got to make sure that Friday night is a chance where we can do that.
Sean, what have you seen from the guard competition so far with Mike, John, and Cody?
I think they've all had their days, good days, and they've all had some moments that they would want back. They're all at different stages of where they're at in their career and the experience that they have. So I can tell you there's a lot of trust in those guys. That said, they've still got to show us what they've got and what they can do present day as opposed to what they've done prior to today. So, some of those guys will play Friday night and work themselves into a position, hopefully as a starter, maybe, and we'll just see where it goes. So I think part of it is just durability for some of those guys, availability, right? And but we have a lot of faith in those guys, and we look forward to getting them back on a full-time basis here.
Sean, you talked to Mitch Trubisky yesterday for the first time, and it really stood out how comfortable he's gotten in such a short time here. What's been your impressions of him, not only the guy, but what he's been able to do on the field in a short time?
Well, the person has been he's been a great add to our football team. He got married this off season, which is awesome to see and hear, and you get to know him a little bit, and he's a real pleasure to be around. He doesn't take this for granted, and he comes in every day with a great attitude of wanting to get better as a player, get better as a person, and help our football team. And so I think that says a lot about who he is. I love it when I see him smile out here because maybe he hasn't been able to do that as much over the last couple of years. But we all have a story. All these guys, myself included, behind us, we all have similar stories in our background, and that's what I think makes this place a good fit for Mitch.
Sean, is there anything on your checklist? You have some preseason games that your coaching staff can go through also here that you didn't get last year, whether it be new NFL rules, things that you want to do differently from a logistical standpoint on game days. Can you give any examples as to what you want to accomplish within your staff and those types of things?
Yeah, I think, Tim, one of the big things is communication. I'd say communication, how it flows, from the booth down to the field, just knocking the rust off of some of that. We did that in the practice this past weekend to get the first go around of it, and it's only going to improve. And so that's important. Some of the game situations are, when we didn't have preseason games, it was a little bit easier because I could put a menu together of I want to get through 10 situations, if you will, and preseason games are great, but sometimes you don't get that chance because they have to come up within the course of the game, and if they don't, then you got to find another place in practice to get them in. So it's just like I alluded to earlier, it's a little bit of a juggling act, but we figure it out, and I got a great staff around me to help me with that.
Sean, we saw Zach Moss pop up with a hamstring injury tomorrow. Are you expecting him to miss any time going forward?
Yeah, I don't think he'll be out there today. I know he won't be out there today, and we'll just take it one day at a time.
Sean, the Guardian caps and the line that are wearing right now, how involved were you in the discussion to start using those, and what have guys said about them so far?
Yeah, I give credit to the docs at the league and the PA. I'm sure was involved with that, and I don't know for sure all that went into that, but I can tell you anything that has to do with player safety and improving player safety, I'm all for it. And I tip my hat, if you will, to our linemen and our equipment manager Jeff Mazurek of just being open-minded to doing it. I mean, it doesn't look great. I gotta be honest, but I think the players, and I don't think anything they would develop would look any better. It's just I think it does its job. If you talk to the players, which I'm sure many of you have already, they can feel a difference in practice, and so that means to me that it's doing its job.
Let's take two more, please. Sean, how much does your timeline? You mentioned a lot about the roster cut downs and stuff like that. How much does that change in game and stuff like that as you're evaluating some of the younger guys?
Yeah, I mean it's everything's fluid. Even playtime for Friday night, we try and map it out best we can, but that still is fluid. Just because, hey, if a guy goes out there and really does well, and you say, hey, we plan for him to play a quarter, say, and he's already done this, then you're going, okay, let's get him out and get the next guy in and see what he can do. So, yeah, that remains fluid, and we'll just continue to move those pieces around as the situation calls for.